Okay, the first challenge is to draw this object in the middle of the screen. As you can see, it's supposed to look like oak. I'll slow that down. It's a piece of timber with a few random objects drawn on it, just to show you what it looks like. Okay, and you might be going, whoa, that is complicated. By the way, I've tried to add in a really cool little thing inside that slot, a little radius on the bottom of this slot that you can see there, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And this hole goes right through it. I've put a few little rounded edges on things because I like things with little rounded edges, yeah, so that's what we're going to try and draw, and I'm going to show you how to do it. First up, I'm going to say, if you have access to a mouse, you know what I mean by a mouse clicking, I think it's so much easier to use. So I'm using a mouse. The mouse gives me the ability, because most mouses have a little wheel in the middle that you can zoom in and zoom out with that wheel. I don't know if you can hear the little zooming, that's me zooming. If I push in on the mouse I've got on the wheel, I can push it in and move it around the window. Okay, and I obviously have right click, one click, two clicks. If you're using a trackpad, it'll still work. You've got to use two fingers to move it around the screen, and I think you just swipe and zoom in. And there is also these things at the bottom. Hand is actually pan, which means move it around the screen. Orbit means revolve it, to look around at it. The others I haven't, that's fit to screen and things like that, so I don't use the other ones much. This little cube up in the top right, I don't know if you can see where I am now. The home sends it home and goes back to 3D looking thing like this. That's home. If I want to look at the top of it, I do that. If I click this arrow, this is the front, that's the right side, that's the back, and then I can press home and it'll go back. And by the way, I tend to use this cube to grab it and move it. Okay, so if you see me revolving it, I'm often up there revolving this little cube. Okay, this is how you start. You go up to here, file, see a little page, file, new, there we go. I normally suggest saving it. So you create I've got a folder, by the way, here's the location. I've got a folder for timber finger joints box, and I'm going to call this simple object demo 1, simple object number 1. Let's call it that, simple object 1. Okay. Ooh, I already have a file here called simple object 1. Anyway, that's okay. There it is. I am going to start, by the way, if I use my cube, you'll see a weird grid pattern here. I like that grid pattern. So I'm going to go up to this sketch menu. These are the main ones here for each one for create. Within the sketch, I have all these options. Lines, rectangles, circles, and slots. We're going to use that. Random things. Create has some here. We're going to use extrude. And I'm also going to use, I'll modify fillets. That's the one we're going to use today. We're not going to use assembly and some of these other ones. But this is how you 3D print. I think you go make 3D print. If you had a 3D printer, you'd send it there and you can do things there. So we're going to start with a rectangle. So by the way, if I go rectangle, it says, do you want a rectangle where you specify 2 points of the rectangle? Do you want a rectangle where you specify 3 points? Or do you want just the center and then it'll create a rectangle around that center point? I tend to normally use 2-point rectangle. I will show you an example where we use 1. So I'm going to start with 2-point rectangle. And it normally says, notice the little thing on the screen says select a plane or a planar face. There's 3 options here. This one, and this one. This is the same sort of concept in maths when you have an X and Y axes. This is the same. You've got X, Y, but also another one called Z. It's basically the 3 different angles on this cube, a top, front, or a side. Let's go with the top. Okay, if I click top, it'll go to that view and go, all right, that's it. Otherwise, I go down to these little 3 panels and say which one, side, back, or top. Click top. Then it's going to prompt me to say, place the first corner of your box. It doesn't matter where I place it. Most of the time, and I guess you guys would as well, would go, well, I have to place it in the middle of the screen. That is perfectly fine. So you can click here. I can click anywhere and go. By the way, I've clicked once. I moved my mouse and I haven't clicked it a second time. Once I click it for a second time, it's sort of fixed temporarily. It's not the end of the world. But if I did it, that's what would happen. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to undo that and start again. Okay, rectangle, 2 point, click a spot, drag it, and then it says there's measurements there. See those measurements? The blue one says 48. I can type in a number. If it's blue or highlighted, I can type in a number. So I want it 40 millimeters. And if I press tab, the tab button on my keyboard, it goes to the next box, and I say, well, how big do you want this box to be? I want this box to be 60. 40 by 60. I'm just going to write this down on a bit of paper so I remember. 40 by 60. Press enter. There it is. All right, it's just a rectangle, 40 by 60. Okay, I can stop sketch. I can go home and zoom out and go, well, there it is. A 40 by 60 rectangle. Now I want to modify it. There is also this button here, extrude, but there is also one here called press pull. I believe they're the same. We really want to extrude it. Okay, the shortcut is E. Notice there's an E here. This hole has a H. That means it's a shortcut. By the way, in rectangle, it's R for rectangle, L for line. So if I press this button, it'll say, well, what do you want to extrude? And it's highlighted that box. And so I'm going to drag it up, or I can drag it down. And it'll drag it up and drag it down a certain amount. And I can say how much. If I'm not sure, I can write a number in here as well. So I'm going to drag it up 40 millimeters. Okay? And press enter. Okay, and there is my box. So again, I go up to my cube and I can rotate it around and bring it down to the middle. All right, press home. There's my cube. All right, 40 high, 40 wide, 60 long millimeters. This is, by the way, millimeters. All right, brilliant. There's my cube. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to push or cut a hole in the top. All right, I can go sketch a circle, C for circle. Again, I can select the center of the circle, or I can select other parts of a circle. Center of the circle's easy for me, so I'm going to do that. And then it's going to say, where do you want to put the circle? I'm going to say on the top of the box. All right, and then it'll say, well, where do you want the circle, the center of the circle to be? Okay, it is easy. If I go to the edge of this, you'll notice there's an X. If I go along, it'll normally tell me that is the center of that line, that side. So that normally means that is 30 millimeters along there. So I could then drag it down, oops, and it should indicate there is the center of the box. Okay, I can do that. The other option is just plonk it anywhere you want. There. Move my mouse out. How big do I want this circle to be? I want it to be 20 millimeters. So write 20, enter. 20 millimeter diameter circle. I'm going to write that down. Okay, it's not in the middle of my box. Okay, but I am going to move it into the middle of the box. So if I go here, sketch. If it's not in the middle, like mine isn't, I'm going to go, I think I've got to go back to the sketch I just did. by the way, down the bottom here, bottom left of the screen, these three little things are what I have done so far. So if I go back to here, I did nothing, then I drew a box and then I extruded it, so it should look like this. If I go back to the beginning, I see nothing, then I drew a box, then I extruded it, then I drew a circle. So I want to edit this circle, so I should be able to go here and go edit the circle. Okay, so I can go sketch dimension, or D, and I'll say I want the measurement from this edge to the center of my circle, and I want to specify a measurement because it's not in the middle. And I know this is 60, so I want that halfway along, so I'm going to go 30 millimeters. Press enter, and it'll push that circle to that position. Okay, same with the other direction. I can go D, shortcut, by the way. I can go from this edge to the center of my circle, and I can say, well, I want to make sure it's at 20, and it is 20. It was at 20, and it is at 20. And then I should stop my, by the way, that's off the screen, but it says stop sketch down here. Down here, stop sketch. There it is. A box, still 40 by 40 by 60 with a circle. Now I want to push that circle through. So I want to extrude that circle. So I'm going to go up here and go extrude, and it's going to say over here, what do you want to extrude? That circle. Select the circle. Then it says, do you want to go up or down? If I press up, watch the operation here, it says, it'll go join material to it. Or if I go down, it'll say cut away material. How much do we want to cut away? I could specify a depth here, so I don't go all the way through. But if I wanted to go all the way through, I could just push it down a long way, like that. And you'll see I've pushed it right through the object. And it says here it's cutting. So if I go, yep, cut it. Now you'll notice what you've just done is you've cut a hole. Oops, it's because I'm dragging the mouse off the screen. I'll go to orbit, it's probably easier. I've cut a hole straight through that box, and you can really weirdly like zoom right through that hole and see it. I think that's pretty cool. All right, you're doing well if you've got that far. All right, let's add a couple of things to it. I want to go and add on one of the ends a little box, a little rectangle sticking out, and I'm going to select on this side. So I'm going to go up here and go sketch a rectangle, and this time I might choose the center of the rectangle just for something different. And then it'll say, well, where do you want to draw it? Notice it says which plane of this thing, and I'm going to go to the end. All right, and then where do I want it? I want it in the middle, so I should do this until there. That's the middle. If I don't know where the middle is, just click it. And then how big do you want this to be? I want it to be, let's do 20. Tab 20. Enter. All right, it's not in the middle, but I want to move it to the middle, so I'm going to go D for dimension, sketch dimension. Select the edge, select the middle, move it up, and I want that in the middle, and because that side was 40 by 40 millimeters, I want it halfway, which is 20. Enter. So I was going to say shortcut for D, but D, edge, center, I want that to be 20 as well, and that should push it into the middle of that face. All right, modify or extrude. What do you want to extrude? That little box. Okay, notice it's there, that box. I want to click it. Do you want to cut away or do you want to add? We want to add in this case. We're going to add, let's add 10 millimeters. Oops, it's 11, 10. It looks about right. Press enter. Now we've got a little added on rectangular prism on the end of that object. Awesome. Let's go and add a weird thing called a slot. Okay, again, we want to create what do we want to create? All these weird things. Mirrors, patterns, boxes, holes, modify. These are all things we can do. We're going to add a fillet in a little bit. But I'm going to go back to sketch and go, I want a slot. Do you want to specify the center of the slot or the overall slot size? I might say overall slot size. All right, and then it's going to say, where do you want to draw it? This face, this. Let's go this one. Okay, where do I want it to start? I'm going to just pick a random spot because otherwise I would be going down, finding the middle, finding a set spot. But let's just pretend, let's just do it like this. Find the middle, somewhere here, all the way. I want it to be 30 millimeters long, this slot. Oops, it's just disappeared. I may have drawn it on the other side. No. I might have to redo that one again. Where is it? Oh, it's just, I don't know what's happened. Slot. Overall slot size. Click it here. Click it here. And drag it out. Okay. I want this slot to be 15. Yeah, let's go 15. 15 millimeters. Enter. 15 millimeters high. I do want to extend it, so let's see if we can modify that dimension. So from this end point to this end point. Oops. Did it pick it up? There to there. I want that to be 30, not 31.0. I'm going to make that 30. There it is. Actually, I think in the example I showed you, it may have been bigger. But add a slot. I want to make sure it's in the center, so I'm going to go D from here to the center of my circle. I want that to be 20. So it's halfway down that face, like that. And then it should be centered left and right because, oh no, it's not actually centered yet. So I want to go dimension from this edge here to there. All right, if this face is 60 long, this whole face here is 60, and the slot is 30, I want that to be 15. So I'm going to write 15 in there. By the way, if you don't get these measurements or don't get it centered, not a big deal. I'm just showing you how you can do it. And now I want to extrude it. So create, extrude this object. All right, do you want to push it out? So I'll show you what I mean by push it out. Push it out is a weird thing. Push it in. We're going to push it in. I'm only going to push it in 5 millimeters. All right, I'm going to leave it at 5 and go, okay. There you go. You've just added this is called a slot, a little thing there. All right, that is our object. Now, all those edges are sharp, 90-degree kind of cuts all around this, all here. I want to try and add fillets onto it. A fillet is rounding off some of the corners. So I can add fillets to any of the edges. I like that. So if I go fillet, it then says, well, what do you want to fillet? I'm going to try and select this circle. Okay, I'll try and zoom in and move it to the middle so you can see it. I want that circle. If I want the top of this circle, I can hover over it and go. So I'm hovering that circle. And then it'll say here, well, what radius do you want that fillet? And pick a number. I'm going to pick 3 millimeters. And that's just put a rounded 3 millimeter radius rounded edge on that. Beautiful. Look how good that looks. And I'm going to show you something you can do as well. So create that was modify fillet. I'm actually going to try and put one in the bottom of this slot. I can do the top and I can also do the bottom. That's the bottom edge I've highlighted now. If I click it and then say, well, I want to fillet on that bottom edge and I want to do let's do a 3 millimeter fillet. that's what it'll look like. If I want a 2mm fillet, it'll look like that. So let's go, if I want a 5, it'll look like that. So whatever you want, put a little fillet on it. Let's leave it at, let's do it 3, and then you can sort of see where the fillet starts and where it stops. Done. See that? So if I go down here to orbit, you should be able to see in there is a rounded, it's now not a sharp bottom edge in here. It's rounded, and I really like that. I like that look. So have a go at the fillet. You can put it on other surfaces. So for instance, if I want create a, go the wrong one, fillet on the edges up here, I can select this edge, this edge, this edge, this edge. Oh, did I get it? That one. And then it'll say, well, what size radius do you want to, I can put a 3mm rounded edge on that, or bigger. I think I'm just doing 3mm on this one. Done. All right, there is our object. So let's go down to orbit. Oh, I must have missed this back edge. Modify, fillet, that edge. Oh no. I'd have to go back and select, modify the selection. So if I've missed an edge like that, I would probably go back down to here, and I think you can delete these, so I can go escape. Down here I can actually delete these features. So I can go create, oh no, it's modify fillet, top edge. I must have missed the back edge. That edge, that edge, and that edge. And you should be able to see here that I've selected 4 edges. I must have only selected 3. And then I can change the radius either here or here. And I think I'm going 3. 3mm. And then now let's rotate around and look. Done. There's our object. That's the plan. If you can do that, you're doing really well. If you can't get all these bits on it and all these radiuses and slots and things, that's okay. Just have a try. Watch the video again, have a try. If I want to change the appearance, hover over these and see what they do. Modify, change parameter, no, physical material or appearance. I haven't played with appearance much, but I've changed the material. So I can go change the physical material. Do you want it to be made of glass, liquid metal, plastic, stone, wood? In the example I showed, I did wood. And then also, well, which sort of wood do you want? These are all types of wood, cherry, mahogany. I think I did white oak. You can do plywood, walnut. Walnut usually looks good. Let's do wood oak. And I think you just double click it or drag it onto it, I think. And it turns it to oak. If I didn't like wood, I would just go up here and go, I want it made of plastic. And which type of plastic? I could go red plastic, red laminate, and that should look like it's made of red laminate. And I think the idea with appearance is you could put different patterns and things in it. So let's go back to wood and drag wood on there and go, there you go. All right, that is, yeah, your first challenge. That's quite a lot of little bits. So that's a hard challenge, but if you can do that, you've done really well.